نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم رسوله النبي الأمين المكين الحنين الكريم الرؤوف الرحيم. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال الله تعالى في شان حبيبه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما تحب وترضى بأن تصلي عليه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. صدق الله العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Most respected ulama, my respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Last week we had commenced with the topic of prophetic leadership from the Holy Quran, and I had spoken about two stations of nubuwah within the office of nubuwah, which are known as the stations or the positions of khilafah and imamah, vicegerency and leadership. And I mentioned that every nabi occupies these positions and has been bestowed with these statuses. However, it is not necessary that every Nabi will become a political leader and a Khalifa in the sense of the word, wherein he will lead people in terms of bureaucracy and in terms of governance and in terms of government. Like the example of Shamwil alayhi salam, who had Talut as the king and as the president of the people at that time. But there were other Anbiya alayhi salam who occupied both positions of Imamah and Khilafah, like Sayyidina Dawood alayhi salam, like Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, like Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, who maintained bureaucratic rules and roles, as well as being Imams of guidance. So they were Khalifatullah fil ard in terms of they ruled over the land and they led the people in guidance. That was fundamentally Imamah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clarified in the Holy Quran the qualifications for Khilafah, for vicegerency, to rule over the land, and for Imamah, spiritual guidance. I don't like to use the word leader here. Spiritual guidance. And amongst them is that one of the critical requirements for you to be a vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth and rule over the land, Khalifa, you need to possess ilm, knowledge. And there's one defining characteristic of a person who's called an alim. And you've got to remember this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Shahid Allahu annahu la ilaha illallah huwa wal malaika wa ulul ilmi qa'iman bil qist. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah himself as the Lord testifies to the fact that there is only one Allah and there's no God besides him, and the malaika testify thereto, and wa ulul ilmi qa'iman bil qist. Allah described the ulama and the possessors of knowledge by stating and clarifying and defining who the true ulama are. When he said, Ulul ilmi qa'iman bil qist, the possessors of knowledge are those people who stand firm for justice. Meaning, if you are an alim and if you are not standing firmly for justice according to the dictates of the Holy Quran, which means even if it be against yourself, then you have not fulfilled the requirement of knowledge. You have not fulfilled the criteria of being called an alim in the true sense of the word. You've got to be one of the greatest advocates for justice and of justice. So as a Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth, you have to be absolutely just. And that is the requirement of knowledge in the first place. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about this in terms of the example of Sayyidina Dawood alayhi salam. Fahkum bayna nas. Be a very equitable and be a very fair judge. When you in the matters, in the legal matters of people, in the social matters of people, in political matters of people, if you are a leader, you've got to take care of all of these issues, and the foundations upon which your governance is laid is upon justice and the Quranic requirement of justice. Then we came to the second section, in that the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam are the spiritual inheritors of the legacy of Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam. And they have also inherited the stations of Imamah and Khilafah. Khilafah meaning ruling over the land, and Imamah being fundamentally inspirational, spiritual, moral, ethical, political leaders. But there's one distinction between Anbiya and the Ummah of Rasulullah. In the Ummah of Rasulullah, a person may come up to the position and take on the position of being a Khalifa, which will entitle him to rule over the land from a political perspective. But that doesn't necessarily mean he is an Imam, a leader of guidance, a moral leader, a spiritual leader, an inspirational leader, a liberationist leader. He may not be that. He could be corrupt. He could be a tyrant. And he could be engaged in major sin and not be eligible for the position. But he may take that position either by bribery, either by coercion, either by intimidation or by threat. He can take the position. And an Imam may not necessarily, in the Ummah of Rasulullah, occupy a political seat and have and possess a political position, but he can hold a position in the sight of people which is higher in terms of if it's influence than even a political leader. Like the example I gave of Imam Ali Zainul Abidin as-Sajjad and the Khalif of the time, Hisham. He had no standing in the community, yet he was the political authority. But the spiritual leadership and the spiritual authority, the moral authority, the legitimacy belonged to Imam Ali Zainul Abidin in the sight of people. That's a reality. Now, when we look at all of these issues, we come to realize that there is a disconnect in the Ummah today, in the sense that we've seen a clear breakaway with what we know as Khilafah and what we know as Imamah. And after the Khilafat Rashida, like the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam stated, of 30 years, which is the Khilafat Rashida. Again, I'm going to clarify. Khilafat Rashida, as the Prophet of Allah spoke about in Sayyidina Safina's hadith, will last 30 years. The Khilafat Rashida was number 1, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. Number 2, Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab. Number 3, Sayyidina Usman Ghani radiallahu ta'ala. Number 4, Sayyidina Ali al-Murtada. And number 5, Imam al-Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu wa alayhi salam. We forget the 6 months of Khilafat Rashida, but if you count it, and nobody can dispute this, Khilafat Rashida ended with the 6 months of Imam al-Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu wa alayhi salam. And this is where the issue of imamat comes in. Because after, like the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had foretold, that after the Khilafat Rashida, which will last 30 years, what will replace it? It will be replaced with a biting kingship. The word is biting. وَتَكُونُ مُلْكًا عَابًا. It will be a biting kingship. It's not something that is pleasant. You don't like somebody, even if a child bites you, it hurts. He said the kingship and the monarchy after the Khilafat Rashida, 30 years, will be a biting kingship. Sadaqa Rasulullah. These are the words of the Messenger of Allah. This is not the opinion of any scholar. The Prophet ﷺ's fatwa on this matter was that after the Khilafat Rashida, there'll be a biting kingship. And this is where the whole issue in terms of what we are facing today started to unravel. And this is where the issue of imamat came in. Because when the Khalif in the Muslim empire becomes corrupt, morally, ethically, legally, spiritually, right? Fine, economically, on every level, the Khalifa becomes corrupt because he's ruling over the land. Then the Imam has to come in to rectify the matter. What's the distinction in the Ummah in terms of a corrupt Khalif and an Imam? Simple. I'll give you one or two, not all of them. Okay. One distinction is the Khalifa wishes to establish his personal political authority. The Khalifa, if he's corrupt, wants to establish his personal political authority. Whereas the Imam wants to establish divine authority. The Imam wants to establish divine authority. The corrupt Khalifa, wants to prioritize politics over Islam. And the Imam wants to prioritize Islam in politics. I said that on the Ashura night as well. What does the Khalifa do? He wants to prioritize politics over Islam. And the Imam wants to prioritize Islam in politics. The Imam wants to establish an Islamic state which is governed by and regulated by Quran and Sunnah. The Imam wants to establish an Islamic state which is governed by and regulated by Quran and Sunnah, whereas the corrupt Khalifa wants to establish an Islamic state wherein the Islamic state will regulate Quran and Sunnah. So the distinctions? Yeah. Now, when we come to the issue of imamat, let's start off with Imam al-Hassan alayhi salatu wasalam. The Holy Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasalam spoke about his leadership and the fact that he is an imam, and him and his brother Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, besides the other Khulafa Rashidun, set the groundwork to create a clear distinction between what is corrupt rule over the land and what is moral, ethical, spiritual leadership and guidance of the Muslim Ummah. And the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam stated this, and in the lengthy hadith, I'm going to read the hadith out. No, let's not read the hadith right now. It's another political issue. But the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, you know, Imam al-Hassan was unanimously elected. He was unanimously elected by the people as a Khalifatul Mu'mineen after the assassination and the murder of and the shahada of Ali al-Murtada karamullah. He was elected. Okay, Ali al-Murtada karamullah ta'ala wajhul kareem. But when he gave up the Khilafah and the spiritual bureaucratic rule over the Muslim empire, right? What happened? When this took place, the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the prediction of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became true, because the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna bani hadha sayyid." He said, indeed, and the Prophet of Allah sat on his mimbar when he addressed this, because when he used to sit on the mimbar of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to be the chief post in the Islamic parliament. If you sat there, you were the head of state. If you were the Imam in Masjidun Nabawi, you were the head of state. The imamat was a political position. Okay? And the Khalif, if he was not corrupt, used to lead the Imam as the Imam and the khutbah. But the Khalif eventually tried to usurp the position of imamat because he had the political authority by becoming the Imam and by leading the khutbah. Okay, so Imam al-Hassan alayhi salatu, when he gave up the Khilafah, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated, this son of mine is a Sayyid, he is a master, he is a chief, he is a leader. And the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam set up a new paradigm of leadership, not a new one. This was the same paradigm of leadership, ala manhajin nubuwah, which was on the footsteps of nubuwah. Like I mentioned last week, there were two, amongst others, two great prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who were imams and khulafa in a unique sense of the word. Because an imam is a leader, a spiritual leader. He guides you towards good deeds. He guides you towards to staying away from evil deeds. He guides you towards ibadah. As a spiritual leader, he guides you towards morality. He guides you towards ethics. He guides you towards goodness. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِمْ فِعْلَ الْخَيْرَاتِ وَإِقَامِ الصَّلَاةِ وَإِيتَاءَ الزَّكَاةِ وَكَانُوا لَنَا عَابِدِينَ. That's one quality. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the second quality is وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا لَمَّا صَبَرُوا وَكَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يُوقِنُونَ. He's a social leader. And he's a leader of liberation. He teaches people in times of difficulty, calamities, trials, and tribulations. The Imam of the people teaches his people to hold on to the garment of sabr, to hold on to patience. Not patience in terms of sit down and do nothing. No. In the true sense of the word patience, as the Quran has described what sabr is. And he gets people to have belief and yaqeen and conviction in the ayats and the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning he directs them toward ista'inu bis sabr wa salah. And he guides them towards the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's a social leader, a moral leader, an ethical leader. And most importantly, Musa alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam were leaders of liberation. They were leaders of liberation. They liberated their people. They granted their people freedom from the tyranny of Fir'aun, from the tyranny of ideologies that purports to place human beings and individuals over divine authority, which we call today democracy. Demo means man, cracy means government of man. We have government of God. Both Musa alayhi salam and Ibrahim alayhi salam did this very same thing. And Sayyidina Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam established this or re-established this aspect of imamah, wherein the imam doesn't only stand there and lead the people, no, must do good deeds, must read Quran and you must zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the imam will read beautifully, salah, and lead the salah, beautiful qira'ah, and then he'll give you a wonderful khutbah wherein your eyes will, you'll start to shed tears with his words. They said imamat also requires for you to go out on the battlefield. Imamat requires also for you to stand up and speak truth to power. Imamat and guidance of people requires for you when people are silent and are unable to talk. The leader who's selected by Allah has to stand up against, the leader who is selected by Allah has to stand up against the leader who is elected by people. Yeah. When Imam al-Hassan made the sulh, why did he do it? There's a lesson in leadership that we need to learn, an imamat that we need to learn from Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein. And what's fundamentally the basis of their manhaj and their way in terms of leadership and imamah? Simple. In 2 words, Imam al-Hassan realized that imamah requires, spiritual leadership and spiritual guidance requires that you give up political authority to save and protect Muslims, if that is the case. Imamah requires that you give up political authority and governorship of people and ruling over the land if it will save the Muslims. And Imam al-Hussein taught that you give up your life if it means saving Islam. So Imam al-Hassan taught us, what did he teach us? He taught us that if it means you're giving up the seat of power and worldly authority to save Muslims and save Muslim lives, then give up political authority. You'll still remain a leader. And Imam al-Hussein taught us, if it means saving Islam, then you give your life. Yeah. Now, many people are under this, this misconception that, Karbala started off when Imam al-Hussein just opposed, right, the Khilafat and the Bay'ah of Yazid. No, it doesn't start there. Karbala was the end game. Karbala was a finality on the battlefield, but Karbala continued after that, as you know. But Imam al-Hussein's campaign didn't start off there. It started off in terms of the re-establishment of true spiritual leadership in the ummah, which is through imamah. If you look at the shara'it and the requirements for maintaining the sulh and the peace treaty between the Umayyad government and Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein and his people, you will understand the first requirement of the peace treaty for Imam Hassan abdicating the position was that the next ruler and the next Khalif will establish governance on the manhaj of nubuwwah, on the methodology of prophethood, and the rightly Khulafa al-Rashidun, and the rightly guided Khalifs, according to Quran and Sunnah. Amongst them was the fact that Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein radiallahu ta'ala said, after the next Khalifa, no Khalifa will have the authority to appoint the next Khalifa of the Muslim Ummah. It will be done by the election through the hands of the people. The people will decide, the people will choose who their Khalifa and leader will be. Okay? And to protect the Muslim masses from any other revenge and vengeance, so to speak, Imam al-Hassan said those who supported Ali al-Murtada and Imam al-Hassan in the battles of Siffin and Jamal will be granted amnesty, and there will be no threats, no intimidation, nothing whatsoever against them. But you got to follow these requirements. Now, what did Imam Hussein oppose? Yazid, the bay'at of Yazid? No. As an imam, he saw spiritual corruption, religious corruption. As an imam, he saw social corruption. As an imam, he saw political corruption. I'm going to go very quickly through it. You would think Imam al-Hussein was only martyred. Let's start off with the first one. When we're talking about corruption in terms of religion and deen, there's a hadith, I'm not going to take names or anything. There's a hadith of Sunnah Abu Dawood. Sayyidina Miqdam radiallahu ta'ala anhu is a Khalif of the time. Is a Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He goes into the court of the Umayyad government, and he hears in the court of the Umayyad government that Imam al-Hassan was poisoned and martyred. Keep this in mind. And when Sayyidina Miqdam, who is a Sahabi of Rasulullah, when he heard that Imam al-Hassan, after he gave up the Khilafat, had still been poisoned and martyred, he said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. So Imam Abu Dawood says, a person said, are you expressing remorse at the martyrdom and at the death of Hassan? He said, why should I not say that when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I love Hassan and I love Hussein, and Ya Allah, love those who love Hassan and love Hussein. And he's just been martyred and I must not express any remorse at it. So it was said in the court of the Umayyad government, oh, Hassan was a hot, burning coal. He was a hot, burning coal that Allah got rid of for us. Yeah. He got upset. Miqdam the Sahabi got upset. And he told him a few things. He said, let me tell you, what is the state of this government right now? He said, tell me, and I adjure you by the Lord, by Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell me if I'm lying or tell me the truth. He said, did not Rasulullah say that gold is haram for men? He said, yes. He said, did not Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say that wearing silk is haram for men? He said, yes. He said, did not Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say that we must not sit on big, large, animal skins, those big ones because it's a sign of wealth. Sit on animal skins on our chairs and our seats and walk and put them as carpets. He said, yes. He said, by Allah, I've seen this by the leaders of the Umayyad government. Second example, corruption in religion. Who doesn't know this? Who doesn't know these laws? And this is the year of Sahaba. Give you another one. Sahih Muslim. This is Sunan Ibn Dawud. This is Sahih Muslim. Sahih Muslim. Marwan bin Hakam. His name I'll take. Governor of Medina. Governor of Hijaz. Do you know what he did? He changed the Sunnah of Rasulullah. He changed the Deen of Rasulullah when he used to sit and curse Ali al-Murtada from the khutbah, from the mimbar, and curse Ali. And this happened for plus minus 60 years. Every Jummah, every Eid, Ali al-Murtada used to be cursed from the mimbar by the so-called Imam and governor who was on the mimbar. Curse him. So on the day of Eid, Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, Marwan got up on the Eid al-Adha and what do? You perform Salah first and then you give khutbah. What he did? He started the khutbah first. So the guy is trying to stop him. The guy is saying, he said, what are you trying to do? He says, no. If I start the namaz, then people read the namaz Salah and they'll go. Because people don't want to hear him cursing Ali. People don't want him engaging in propaganda. And that was what was happening. So he says, no, that was the era of the Prophet. Now it's a new rule. So we can adjust the rules according. Yeah. I'm giving you the gist of the hadith. Go and check it up in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. Change the whole procedure. Yeah. So religious, this is just 2 examples. I'll give you plenty more. Sahih Bukhari, Muslim. 2 examples. Third one, it's a crazy one. We think Imam al-Hussein was only martyred. There were 3 fundamental families that were a threat to the monarchy that emerged after the Khilafat al-Rashida. One was the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second was the family of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. The third was the family of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Now let me tell you one story. People won't tell you this. The advocates of the Umayyad government won't tell you this. But this is a hadith of Sahih Bukhari. And the details have been given in Sunan al-Nasa'i and other books of hadith. And the best part is Tafseer ibn Kathir. Tafseer ibn Kathir, I'm sure you've heard of Ibn Kathir. He's the Imam of the Salafi scholars. They print his thing inside there. Read Surah Al-Ahqaf. He's given the entire story there. I'm just going to give you a little issue inside here. Marwan, Sahih Bukhari. Marwan had been appointed as the governor of Hijaz by the Umayyad government. I'm not taking names. Marwan, okay? He delivered a sermon and mentioned that Yazid bin Muawiyah, so the people may take the oath of allegiance to him as the successor of his father. Abdul Rahman bin Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu told him something wherein Marwan ordered that he be arrested. Imam Bukhari was very diplomatic. He didn't disclose what was said. Okay? Marwan used justification of the Khilafat of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu and the process of election of Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu to justify the election of Yazid, because this is the election campaign for Yazid. This is before Amir Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala has passed on, to justify the Khilafat and the election process of Yazid. So Abdul Rahman bin Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala stood up and told him, you're talking nonsense. My words, those are my words. Okay? but stood up against him. So Imam Bukhari didn't use the word, but Sunan al-Nasai, Muslim Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal has the words. And when those words were uttered, because he spoke truth to power, Abdurrahman ibn Abu Bakr, what happened? Marwan gets up and has the gall to instruct people in Masjid al-Nabawi, his guards, and he tells them, seize this man and arrest him. Abdurrahman bin Abu Bakr, the son of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Arrest him. What he does? Hazrat Abdurrahman ibn Abu Bakr runs into the house of Ummul-Mu'mineen Aisha as-Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala anha. When he runs there, Marwan gets off. Runs towards the house of Ummul-Mu'mineen Aisha as-Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala anha. But Abdurrahman entered Aisha's house and then could not arrest him. Marwan said, it is he, Abdurrahman, about whom Allah has revealed this verse here. وَالَّذِي قَالَ لِوَالِدَيْهِ أُفِّ لَكُمَا أَتَعِدَانِ أَنْ أُخْرَجَ وَقَدْ خَلَتِ الْقُرُونُ مِنْ قَبْلِ. Sayyidina Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala said, Uskut, shut up. Shame on you. Do you hold out to promise me? On that Aisha said, Allah did not reveal anything from the Quran about Ali Abu Bakr, except that was connected of declaration of my innocence against slander. She shut him up immediately. But what happened? What happened after this? And you know what she said after this? Sunan Nisa'i she said, but I can tell you one thing, that you were cursed and your father was cursed. Marwan bin Hakam, your father was cursed and la'nat was made by Rasulullah upon your father and upon you while you were still in the stomach of your father, meaning he wasn't even born yet. La'nat on you. La'nat on you. You weren't even born as yet. She told him, you know what Abdurrahman ibn Abu Bakr? He had to flee from Medina. He had to go all the way to Makkah. Not even in Makkah. He couldn't find security in Makkah. He had to go away 10 miles away from Makkah, hide in one cave. Why are you hiding in a cave? Because people are after you. People are after you. And then he says, suddenly Abdurrahman ibn Abu Bakr passed away in the cave. A few days later. Question mark. How he died so quickly? He was perfectly fine. Question mark. Which is an obvious one. It compelled, Sunan al-Tirmidhi, it compelled Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala anha to go from Medina to Makkah, and she wept. You must read the lines of poetry that she wept when she saw her brother being buried in Makkah. They did a ghusl and kafan and janazah there in Makkah. But the question arises, the moment he opened his mouth against the Umayyad government and he stood up against them, take him out. Take him out. His brother Muhammad bin Abu Bakr before him was massacred in Egypt. He was the governor of Egypt, and Egypt's governorship was taken away and given to the Umayyad government. And you know what did to do? Muhammad bin Abu Bakr, who was 30 years old, brought up in the house of Ali, the governor of Ali al-Murtada in Egypt. They martyred him. They killed him. Then they placed his body in the skin of a donkey, and they set the skin of the donkey and his body alight. This is Muhammad bin Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. Yeah. Then they tried to coerce Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu by bribing him, like I mentioned the other day, with 100,000 dirhams. And the next day they come here, right, give the bayah for Yazid. 100,000 dirhams. So Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, my bayah is very cheap, man. You're trying to bribe me with 100,000 dirhams. Take your money and go. You saw what happened? That's what Imam Hussein came fighting for in Karbala. Yazid is just the beginning of the story. Yazid is just the beginning of the story. Yeah. Nobody talks about all of these issues. And we just turn and downplay the whole incident of Karbala. Because you know why? It stands out and points out at all the guilty parties in the Muslim Ummah throughout history. Because today, there are more people who are following the Umayyad government playbook than following the Husseini way, which is the Quranic and the prophetic way. Yeah. These are very, very, hurtful incidents in the history of Islam. And why is this connected? Why are you repeating this history? Why are you talking about it every year? Because we haven't resolved the issue in 1400 years. We have an issue solved, and we ask ourselves, but what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, the problem is, like the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam stated, he says, "Inna Allah la yakhbitu al-ilm intiza'an yantazi'unahu min an-nas wa la yakhbitu al-ilma biqabdi al-ulama." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not take away knowledge by snatching it from people, but He takes away knowledge by taking away the scholars. Who are the scholars? The people of ilm. And what is the defining quality of them? They stand up firmly for justice, even if it be against themselves. They are champions of justice. When you see champions of justice passing away, possessors of knowledge, then you must know me in trouble. And then he said, so that when he leaves no learned person, people who stand up and practice upon their knowledge for justice, people turn to their ignorant as their leaders. Then they ask to deliver religious verdicts, and they deliver them without knowledge, so that the people who delivered the verdict, they go astray and lead others astray. Yeah. There's a lot to tell you. You know, the problem is, today, when a person claims to be an imam, whether he's the imam on a musalla, whether he's the imam of the haram, or whether he's the imam of a certain sect, or he claims to be an imam, simple litmus test. Just put Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein there. If he doesn't fulfill the requirement of imamat, even if he's an imam on a musalla, be careful. I'll give you an example. Allama Iqbal said, right? Qawm kya hai? Qawmon ki imamat kya hai? What is a nation? Right? Qawmon ki imamat kya hai? And what does it mean to lead a people? Kya batayenge tumhe 2 rakat ke imam? What can an imam who's just leading in 2 rakats of salah tell you what leadership is, what political leadership is, what spiritual leadership and moral ethical leadership is? He can't. He doesn't make Allah Akbar and he's carrying on regulating the process. Whether he's the imam here, whether he's the imam in a haram. Don't get taken away. Don't get oh yes, I forgot Abdullah ibn Zubayr. He was one of them as well. If you know what happened to him, they martyred Abdullah ibn Zubayr in the Kaaba. Inside the Kaaba. They put through catapults into the Kaaba, burnt the whole Kaaba, Kiswa. They killed the people of Harra, Yazid's government, killed the people in the battle of Harra in Medina. You know why? Finally, the Ummah picked up their head and said, no more bay'ah to tyrannical rulers. No more giving in to these tyrannical rulers who want to establish their monarchy and maintain their own personal authority. No more. So what they did, they took off their turbans and they left it on the floor and they said, we break our bay'ah with Yazid the way we've taken our turbans off from our heads. And there was an entire, like a whole big mountain of turbans in Masjid al-Nabawi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yeah. We don't know what we're talking about. That Imam of the Haram, he is a textbook Umawi Imam. He does what Marwan did. He issues verdicts in favors of these tyrannical kings. He will sing the praises of the king, but he'll prevent, and they'll use threats, intimidation, coercion to people to say, don't you open your mouth in the Haram of Makkah and make dua even for the people of Palestine. And then stand there on the mimbar of Rasulullah, exactly like the Umayyas used to do, and say, Ya Allah, protect the leader of this kingdom. But no dua for Palestine. What happened to ulul ilmi qa'iman bil qist? Even if you be against yourself. These are immatul mudallin, the Prophet of Allah spoke about. These are the misguided leaders. Even he's the Imam of the Haram. And you can see it. You can see it today. Who are the people who are most silent? In fact, justifying the behavior of the tyrannical authorities. These scholars, I got a new name. No more scholars for Lord. I'm tired of that one now. You see, the rial is the currency in riyal. So you have the rialwis. You heard that by me first. The rialwis. Those who get paid with the riyals. Yeah. There's a lot to tell you. But you know the reality of the matter is, the very same people today that stand up and advocate for Yazid and the Umayyad government and for Marwan and defend him to the hilt and support him with their ideologies and promote him and his government by saying radiyallahu anhu and doing this and that and downplaying the status of Ahlul Bayt and their role as imams and leaders of the Muslim Ummah till the day of Qiyamah, imams of guidance, Quran and Quran and Ahlul Bayt. Sahih Muslim hadith, nobody teaches you. I'm serious about it. My daughter kept on telling me this week, Abba, please tell the teachers in Madaris, tell the teachers in school. You're quoting one hadith, which is in Muwatta Imam Malik, in the Sihah Sitta, in Sahih Muslim, that nobody will even challenge the authority of Sahih Muslim on Ghadir Khum and on the 10th of Zulhijjah. First on the 10th of Zulhijjah, day of Arafah, 9th of Zulhijjah. And then 9 days later in Ghadir Khum, Rasulullah said, I'm leaving 2 things for you. If you hold on to them, if you attach yourself to them, if you connect yourself to them, you will not go astray. He's giving you guidance. He's giving you the pathway of guidance. He said, Quran wa Ahlul Bayt, wa itrati Ahlul Bayti. My Quran and my Ahlul Bayt. And then he warned us, Udhakkirukumullah fi Ahli Bayti. I'm warning and reminding you about my Ahlul Bayt. I'm reminding you about my Ahlul Bayt. I'm reminding you about my Ahlul Bayt. Why did he say it 3 times? Because he knows the first thing that they want to exclude the Ummah will do later after him will be to exclude Ahlul Bayt. What's going to happen? And in conclusion, what's going to happen for all of these people who only presented one perspective to the Ummah and said Quran and Sunnah, we agree with it wholeheartedly, 1,000,000%. But even academically, going to ask anybody, those scholars, no, hadith must be hadith like this, hadith must be like that. This is Sahih Muslim. Tell me about the hadith of Muwatta Imam Malik. Now all of a sudden, what happened to your academics? Why is it that you prioritize this one and don't teach the entire Ummah, Quran and Ahlul Bayt? So much so that children in our schools, if you ask them, who are Ahlul Bayt? Who are the Ali Kisa? Who are Hassan and Hussein? Who are Fatima? They don't know. They don't know. And if you tell them Imam, have you seen the Zionist playbook? When a Palestinian is killed, a Palestinian was killed. If an Israeli is killed, they were massacred. The words, play of words. See how the Ahlul Bayt are spoken about in euphemistic terms. Don't allocate to them the respect that is due to them, the position that is due to them. No, just water the whole thing down. What's going to happen to all of us? When the time comes, like the Prophet of Allah ﷺ stated, you denied the imamat of Hassan, you denied the imamat of Hussein. When the world is in desperate need of justice, when the world is in desperate need of guidance, when the world needs inspiration, and the world has finally realized that these Rialwis and scholars for dollars and these monarchies like the Saudis and the Emiratis and the Qataris and the Jordanians and the Moroccans and the bank lot of these guys were all a waste of time and have sold the Muslims and sold the Palestinians. Gone. What will happen then when a man stands up and is selected by Allah and he's going to come from the family of Rasulullah, when he's going to come from the genealogy of Fatima al-Zahra, and he will bring back what his great-grandfather Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein brought, and which was to stand up for justice, for liberation of people, to become a spiritual leader, to become a leader of liberation, to become a leader of social justice. And who is he? Muhammad al-Mahdi. And I'll tell you what the Holy Prophet ﷺ said about him there. He said, he will fill the earth with equity and justice as it was filled with oppression and tyranny. He will bring it back. So every one of us will have to say, hey man, we are following Quran and Sunnah. Who you? Who you? Muhammad al-Mahdi. Who you? From the family of Rasulullah. Fatima al-Zahra, Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein. Oh, you must be Shia. No, because only the Shias follow these people. But who's the man who's going to liberate the Muslim Ummah from the family of Rasulullah? Who will he be? He'll be the Imam. And if you have any doubt in his imamat, as a spiritual leader, as a social leader, as a political leader, no problem. Fight with Isa alayhi salam. Go. Fight with Isa alayhi salam. When Isa alayhi salam descends from the heavens, leaning on two angels, wearing saffron-colored clothing, I'm giving you the description, and his hair feels as if he's just come out of a shower. It's still dripping, like pearls dripping from him inside there. It will be the time of Salatul Fajr. Isa, Ruhullah, Rasulullah, Messenger of Allah, will descend at the time of Salatul Fajr. And who's there? The leader of the Muslim army. I'm not saying Ummah, because people will reject him. The people who follow the ideology of the Kharijis will reject him. So the time of Fajr Salah, Imam, Sayyidina Isa Ruhullah alayhi salatu salam will say now, the Khalif and the leader, Muhammad al-Mahdi, will tell him, oh, Nabiyullah, oh, Rasulullah, oh, one who should bring the dead back to life again, oh, one who's just descended from the heavens right now. You lead us, you are a prophet of God. Isa will say, no, you are the leader from the Ummah of Rasulullah. You become the Imam and I'll become the Muqtadi. So on that time, on that day, what are we Sunnis going to say? No, don't call him Muhammad, don't call him Imam Mahdi, call him Hazrat Mahdi. Like we used to call his grandfather Hazrat Hussein, like we used to call his grandfather Hazrat Hassan. And don't say radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, don't say alayhi salam for Imam Mahdi, say radiyallahu anhu. Yeah. Come on. Don't get there. Don't get there. Allah grant us tawfiq and hidayah, inshallah. Yeah. Fuzail, you get too upset. You get too passionate. Right? You get, yeah. The problem is, for too long, we've been given only one version of the story. For too long, the scholars, the Rialwis, right, and the scholars for dollars have kept this under wraps. For too long, they will come up and same thing happened to Imam Ali. Same thing happened to Imam Hussein. You're wrong. So if people shout at me, swear me, call me misguided, call me like, no problem. Hazrat Ali went through it on the mimbar for 60 years. And who's more guided than Ali al-Murtada? Huh? So if it means being cursed and looked upon and mocked and whatever it is, because you support Ali, Hassan, Hussein, Fatima, Ahlul Bayt, and you support Haqq most importantly, and you support justice more importantly, and people call you names and people call you misguided, trust me, they did it to our leaders before that. They did it to Hassan, they did it to Hussein, they did it to Ali al-Murtada. Who are we? Nobody's. Allah give us tawfiq and hidayah. Alayna bala. Before I forget, special dua shifa